sale. Obey the signs, darling.
Relive some of our best bits from 2012 now at 5AA.com.au.
Channel 7 down here already setting up. Obviously, they're doing a story on me.
We're fired up for 2013, and I'm really looking forward to joining Jane Riley in the studio from January the 14th on 3095, Adelaide's 5AA.
Interactive radio. Call 8223 0000. Peter Godfrey.
17 minutes past 5. Let's cast our attention across the ditch to New Zealand. Selwyn Manning from livenews.co.nz. How are you, Selwyn?
Yeah, very good, Peter. How are things over that side?
Oh, good. Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Weather's not looking too bad in the run-up to Christmas. We've got fine weather, but you might get a bit of the tail end of the cyclone from Fiji.
Yeah, there's a little bit of questions around what the weather's going to be this side. We've got nice blue sky days up here in Auckland at the moment, but in the north and North Island where we are is starting to look like we might be getting a little bit of the cloud wash and things like that coming down from that Cyclone Evan that's hit Samoa and certainly roughed up Fiji during this week, Peter. So all hope is that things will just settle down and we'll get some decent stuff coming through.
Let's hope so. And your preparations all in order for Christmas? You got much planned?
Still got to get some gifts.
Me too.
I'm starting to just think, what do I do here?
Yeah.
But I'm rubbing the chin as I said it on the air just then. But so we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Nothing like the pressure of the last minute shopping to bring inspiration.
The brilliance of spontaneity.
That's it. Yep.
Perhaps that's the key too. I was listening just before, the sort of Paul Keating quotes,
yep.
and just recalled, this may not be exactly as he said, but I did a quick check and it's pretty close. We always kind of smarted and enjoyed the Paul Keating line over this side of the ditch when the Queen, he put his hand on the back of the Queen, and the comment was, when he was challenged by the British media mainly, I think, was, "Come on, guys, I hardly tweaked the royal brass strap." And, that cheek and sense of theatre is something that I think in general terms we should enjoy as opposed to taking
yes.
Over this side, we had the equivalent. He's passed away sadly now, but David Lange, former Prime Minister here, and the Oxford Union debate right at the heart of New Zealand's anti-nuclear stance. And David Lange, as Prime Minister, went over to that. And as he had a very forthright young man from the Naval Academy of the United States leaning toward him, arguing the merits of nuclear deterrence. And David Lange said, "I can smell the uranium on your breath as you lean toward me," and it just had the house come down. It was a very light note. And another time when his big adversary here in politics, Sir Robert Muldoon, who ran the country with an iron fist, when he was knighted later on, it was the New Year's knighthood period where he got it, and David Lange made a bit of a quip that after a very long year, we've got a very short night. Meaning, the knights were very short at that time, and Muldoon was not high in stature. So there's little bits of theatre that perhaps we can...
That's politics, isn't it?
Yeah.
Indeed. Well, we're going to cast our eyes back and take a bit of a look at some of the big stories that have affected you guys in New Zealand over the past, over 2012. And, well, I guess John Key figures amongst a lot of them. Any memorable quotes? He's certainly been involved in a few...
He's a bit bereft of quotes. He's got a lot of smiles. He was on David Letterman when he first became Prime Minister, and he stood there. He was the butt of the joke. He had to stand there and grin while David Letterman read out 10 points of why New Zealand wasn't significant or something. Had the house roaring and laughter, but John Key didn't really contribute apart from being the straight man.
And just on that, actually, I've been sort of listening a bit online to some of the talk back in New Zealand on some of your stations there online, and was it that he this week in a radio studio did the Gangnam Style dance, apparently?
Well, that's right. And he did this. This was his big show yesterday, really, I think it was. Yesterday morning. Well, that's when we all found out about it. There's video of it floating around. The funniest thing about that was not necessarily his uncoordinated dancing, but the fact that they were sacking or had the resignation of the head of the Ministry of Education in New Zealand announcing the resignation of himself, and John Key and the Education Minister have all gone on holiday. So there was no one to actually make reference to why, because the former head of the New Zealand Ministry of Education cited relationships with the minister as the cause of her resignation.
Okay.
So then they go, maybe we've got to try and find some humour out of that.
Yeah, let's go Gangnam Style and see if they can wash it over.
Exactly.
All right. So what's been the biggest things happening in New Zealand 2012?
Yeah, let's scoot through a few. I mean, I kind of categorise them in a fairly strange way. You know, the first one is the most bizarre spin doctoring, and I kind of thought that this one was hotly contested, but New Zealand's Prime Minister John Key trying to spin how more Australians have immigrated to New Zealand than is normal, and he was arguing that balances out how the record numbers of Kiwis have been fleeing the awfulness of his government and hope they'll experience a more reasonable life over in Aussie. Now, the problem with his spin was that the Kiwi diaspora, if you want to call it that, seeking refuge in Australia in 2012 numbered 48,600 people who bought a one-way ticket to Australia and didn't come back.
Right.
When you compare it to only 9,294 Australians decided to chance it across this side of the ditch, Peter. So where John Key was coming from, who can tell? You know, it was a pretty thin attempt at being able to spin his way out of a mess. When he was in the opposition, he campaigned in 2008 that he was going to reverse the trend, or at least arrest the flow of New Zealand talent, so-called, going across the Tasman to settle in Australia. And of course, he's failed on that point, and it's a sore one.
Needs a new spin doctor, clearly.
Yes, or to think more clearly on his feet when he's asked.
Or that
yes.
as well, yes. All right, what else you got for us?
The biggest sign of hope, and this is a real serious one. It is really, I guess, the nation saw school children from all over New Zealand embarking on growing vegetables on school land so they could do something to help their fellow pupils, Peter. Those fellow pupils, their families couldn't afford to provide breakfast and lunch for their kids, and they were turning up to school very hungry. Now, this all came on the back of research that was put out to the public by a highly respected group, the Child Poverty Action Group, and it published a report that detailed how there are now more than 220,000 Kiwi kids living in poverty, that their families are living in poverty. And that's due to the cost of living, the high accommodation costs, poor work opportunities, and low health status as contributors to that. Now, a media campaign by 3 News' Campbell Live program, it was just fantastic. Night after night, we saw evidence of how children caught in the poverty trap were finding ways of finding solutions. And they were backed by their teachers, and obviously growing vegetables. They were preparing it, they were cooking it, and serving it up to each other. And so there were kids who would normally have been hungry right through the day that were actually getting something. The program had challenged the government to front on this issue night after night, and night after night it would say that the government ministers would refuse to turn up. But schools have been joining this kind of program all over the country, and it seems like it's becoming a part of the daily lessons, which is just a fantastic thing. And I thought, on a sense of hope, that things can change. It's a reminder to us all that these political leaders are merely occupiers of power and will in time be replaced if they're not doing their job.
Yeah, and indeed, we can often learn things from our kids.
Yes, and the sense of let's do something for ourselves and get out of this trap too. It's good.
Wonderful stuff. All right, what else has been big this year, do you think?
I guess, New Zealand was rocked pretty hard, so it's a thankful note, really. It's just noting that apart from a cluster of tornadoes that whipped through West Auckland only a week ago, and 3 people lost their lives at that, New Zealand, apart from that, has really emerged throughout from 2012. Got a week or so to go yet, of course, but without any repeat of the devastating Christchurch earthquake that occurred in the early 2011. And we haven't seen a repeat of the Pike River mine tragedy either. And some of the positives that have come out of those tragedies is there's been robust examination and inquiry into almost every angle. We can see where things were at fault, where there was folly, and where there was areas where New Zealand could improve its situation to try and make a better situation should these things occur. And just be reminded that we live on these shaky isles on the Pacific Rim of Fire, and it reminds us to be grateful of each day really as it comes. So that's pretty much it, Peter.
Yeah. Well, just on the on Christchurch. So, are they making progress in the rebuilding? Are people returning to their homes, or is it still...
It's still like when we reported last time about a month ago. It's a mixed bag. Some people are absolutely thrilled and relieved that finally, there was a report this week where a young family has finally been given the nod by the insurance company that their house will be rebuilt. I'm not saying it has been rebuilt now, but they've just been given the authorisation to assist in preparing to rebuild their home, and they're thrilled to bits.
Okay.
And it's that kind of delay that's still in evidence. The government's has been highly criticised for not being fast enough to really get the rebuilding plan going, and tucked away nice and neatly in the fine print of New Zealand's economic standing and its economic reports, its financial reports for the year to the fiscal year that came out mid-year. It showed right down deep, if you looked, that the government's reported deficit, expected deficit of $18 billion had been almost halved. It was only at $9 billion. And you looked at why, and it was because of deferments of the Christchurch rebuild. I mean, it was a major contributor to it. So it was in the government's interest to string this out for as long as possible, and then it wouldn't have to cough up the dollars to help pay for it. So there you go.
There you go. Well, Selwyn, many thanks for your reports all year. It's been great to see how our Kiwi cousins are living and the issues they're dealing with. So much appreciated for your reports. We'll catch you again in 2013, and hope you and your family have a wonderful and safe Christmas and New Year.
And all the best to you all too.
Thanks.
Marvellous conversations we have. I really enjoy them, and it's always great to hear your host listeners, Peter Godfrey, coming in with his chirpy tones when he phones me up in the mornings and says, "You ready to go, mate?" And I say, "Yep, here we go."
All the best, Selwyn. Great talking to you. Have a great Christmas, mate.
Yeah, happy Christmas.
Cheers.
Peter.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
5:28. Anne Stone has news, sport and weather next. Then back with more calls. 8223 0000 if you'd like to join in.
Well, when you live in a bushfire risk area, you share something more with your neighbours.
Yeah, more than rides to school.
Or more than the lawnmower.
We share our plans for what to do if a fire came.
Yeah.
If you've thought about what you'd do if a bushfire threatened your home, let your neighbours know.
There may be no one else here to help.
That's right. We need to know what to do.
Visit cfs.sa.gov.au and find out what to do this summer.
A message from the CFS and the Government of South Australia.
Arthritis SA's Kids Flicks program brings joy and laughter to thousands of children across Australia. It's a free event for children with a disability, chronic illness or social disadvantage and their immediate family. It's a morning of children's entertainment including face painting, clowns, music and much more. Plus a new release movie with a free drink and popcorn. Arthritis SA may be calling you in the next few weeks for our Christmas Kids Flicks events. You'll be supporting a deserving family